Fight for your marriage, even if no one tells you to. Come on, fight for your marriage and don't fight in it. The more you invest in your marriage, the more valuable it will become to you. What you invest in and value, you will always fight for. And there are two ways to know if you're fighting for your marriage and not fighting in it. Number one, you will focus on yourself and what needs to change in you before pointing out what needs to change about your spouse. And number two, you will always try not to use the word you when you're arguing with your spouse. Instead, you focus on the word I. For example, I know I have been doing this and I am sorry. Instead of you know you shouldn't do that and you need to apologize. Taking responsibility for your part of the problem eliminates lots of fighting in the marriage. This is how you demonstrate your desire to make a difference. Like I said, number one is to fight for your marriage and not fight in it. Number two is to never give up. You don't have to give up because every marriage experiences difficulty. And those trials are meant to deepen our love for our spouse, just as trials are meant to deepen our relationship with Christ. 1 Corinthians 7 verse 28. And if the trial seems like more than you can bear on your own, then it's okay to ask for help. You can consider meeting with a professional counselor or, opening up to an older married couple who can help you through hard times. And one thing you must understand is that every good marriage takes dedication, commitment, and communication. So we have to do whatever we can and strive to make it better, no matter the circumstances. And number three is to guard your marriage. God is constantly drawing people to himself. And one day, Jesus will return to the earth and put an end to the world's sin and brokenness. Revelation 21 verse 4. But in the meantime, Satan will do whatever he can, including to attack marriages, in an effort to make Christians ineffective and distract non-Christians from receiving Jesus' offer of salvation. Marriages are vulnerable to Satan because they are vulnerable to God. If Satan can create disunity between husband and wife, then it can cause believers and non-believers alike to question God's good design for relationships. You must realize that Satan's first language is deceit. He tries to create doubt in your mind, making you question your beliefs about your spouse. And then you begin to think, does he really mean it when he says, I love you? I mean, when your husband says, I love you, does he really mean it? Just exactly the same way Satan deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden and made her to sin against God. Let me read it to you from the Living Bible, Genesis chapter 3 from verse 2. So the serpent came to the woman. Really? He asked. None of the fruit in the garden? God says you mustn't eat any of it. Of course, we may eat it. The woman told him, it's only the fruit from the tree at the center of the garden that we are not to eat. God says we mustn't eat it or even touch it, or we will die. Then the serpent said, that's a lie. The serpent hissed, you will not die. God knows very well that the instant you eat it, you will become like him, for your eyes will be opened and you will be able to distinguish good from evil. The woman was convinced how lovely and fresh looking it was, and it would make her so wise. So she ate some of the fruits and gave some to her husband, and he ate it too. Who did this? The serpent, the devil, Satan himself. Don't forget, we're talking about guard your marriage, which is our third point on how to fight for your marriage. You must guide it against the attacks of the devil. And one of the best ways to guard your marriage against Satan's attack is to guard your mind. Even the Bible also says that we should guard our heart, for out of it are the issues of life. Whenever Satan tries to get your attention just to make you question your spouse, remember what Apostle Paul said to us in Philippians 4 verse 8, which says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue or if there be any praise, think on those things. Think on these things. Things that are true, things that are honest, things that are just, pure, lovely, of good report. Yes. Think on those things that are admirable about your spouse, those things that are excellent about your spouse, those things that are praiseworthy about your spouse. Okay, let me recap before we proceed. Number one is to fight for your marriage and not fight in it. Number two is to never give up. And number three is to guard your marriage. So number four is to pursue your spouse. Listen, the more you feed something, the faster it grows. And the more you starve it, the faster it dies. Pursuing your spouse is how you feed your marriage. Just like a healthy plant has deep roots that helps it to withstand drought, cold fronts, and all sorts of storm. A healthy marriage is deep rooted in love, allowing it to withstand all kinds of conflicts. First Peter 4 verse 8 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covereth multitude of sins. So if I may ask, what does loving each other deeply looks like? Just ask your spouse what makes him or her feel loved. Then do whatever he or she says. Be intentional about making your spouse your first priority after Jesus. Remembering that what you feed with your time and attention is what will grow. If you want your marriage to be stronger than your career, then feed it more than your job. And if you want your relationship to be strong after the kids move away, then put it first in your family. So let's move to the next, which is the last but very powerful. And it's my favorite one. It's to pray for your marriage. Yes, pray for your marriage, pray for yourself, and pray for your spouse. Prayer is a vital role in fighting for your marriage. It is a weapon that Satan cannot stand up to. Prayer aligns your actions with God's will. Prayer strengthens your obedience and faith to overcome your selfishness. As you pray for your spouse and yourself, ask God to help you see your spouse through his eyes. I mean, God's eyes. And to help you fix the things you need to become more like Jesus. Let God transform you while trusting Him to do the same for your spouse. And I would like us to see what Romans chapter 12 from verse 9 to 12 says. Don't just pretend. I'm also reading from the Living Translation, the Living Bible. Don't just pretend that you love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Stand on the side of the good. Love each other with brotherly affection and take delight in honoring each other. 11 says, never be lazy in your work, but serve the Lord enthusiastically. And verse 12, the last says, be glad for all that God is planning for you. Be patient in trouble and prayerful always. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe, like, share this video, and smash the bell notification icon so you don't have to miss a video whenever I post one. Thank you. God bless you. And I would also like to recommend this other video